pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Town Council meeting 2020-15. Be called to order. And the first order of business is public announcements. Details may be found at www.fairfieldme.com. Nomination papers for Fairfield Town Council MSAD number 49 School Board and the Kennebec Water District trustee position are available on July 27th, 2020. Please contact the town clerk for details. Second order of business, public hearings. And there are none. Third order of business, public comments. Limit 3-minute equivalent to public speaking. Members of the public may email comments for council at info@fairfieldme.com by 4 p.m. day of meeting or on any topic or agenda item. Items may be read aloud at this time. Yes.
Hello, my name is Alana Braley, and I own a mobile home here in Fairfield. My concern is that the mobile home was sitting in the spot that it was possibly before 2018, but at least as 2018 as I know. And it had changed ownership multiple times. And I suppose that the town of Fairfield has ownership as a woman whose name is Claudette, who in this moment in time, the taxes are still in her name, the tax bill. And Claudette has confirmed to the town of Fairfield that she has sold the mobile home and has exchanged hands multiple times. And I am the last person that the mobile home has ended up with. And it is in the Sunset Mobile Home Park that is behind the Purple Cow. And the people who owned it before me just simply couldn't afford to move it and had left it there without paying any lot rent. The gentleman who owns the mobile home park would very, very much like it moved. I had made arrangements to do so. And I, have a gentleman on wait and everything of such. And I had gone to the town office here in Fairfield to get the tax release for it because I was told that the driver would need it legally to transport my mobile home. So I went to do so. And going to do so, that was when I was informed that it was in Claudette's name and stuff, and that I would have to get what is called a chain of ownership, which to me seems a little crazy because I have moved mobile homes in other towns before, and I've gotten second opinions from other towns. I've spoken to the state rep. I have talked to the Secretary of State and also municipal correspondents who agree that though it does happen, it's very unconventional and unnecessary. That there really is not anything illegal that I'm doing. I have a clean bill of sale, and I would just like to move it from where it doesn't belong, and the man whose property it is on would like me to move it from where it doesn't belong. And I was told that I was denied the ability to get the tax release, though I was able and willing to pay whatever. I can't have it because the person, Claudette, who it was all in, was the last known owner. But now it's been confirmed that she's not, and the town still wants information of apparently every secondhand buyer in between, which is a lot, because how can you tell if you've got everyone in the line, and how come none of these other people need to provide bill of sales or proof of anything, which I have a clean bill of sale. I have proof of who I am, where I'm moving it. The other towns are okay with permitting me the permits. It's just simply moving it out of Fairfield that seems to be the issue. I see no reason why the town would want a mobile home that belongs to no one to sit and rot where it doesn't belong.
Okay, it's 30 seconds are up. In a situation like that, it's a rule of law. There's nothing the town can do except follow the values of the law.
And do I make like a rebuttal comment at all? I only just wanted to bring up that I did do some research on Maine statute, and that in Maine statute, that it says that I only do need a title and proof of who I am to move it legally, that anything else would simply just be town policy, and that's not Maine state statute though. I mean, if the ability to have it moved is there, why do all this extra stuff when it could just be removed?
If you have a legal deed.
Yes. And what exactly do you mean by that though?
We'll let the town manager answer that.
So, with regards to trailers and a title and a bill of sale, that works for things such as like a camper trailer, those sort of pieces. There's no title on this mobile home, so it's going to be the ownership of it, which is the bills of sale. And therefore that's why it has to follow. So like, even if it was a titled vehicle, if a vehicle is titled to an individual and they sell it
Yes.
multiple times, you have to get multiple titles in between. It still have to have a chain of ownership
To
for
a
that
specific
piece.
date.
So
if
we're
it's an
looking into
antique.
this for you as we've discussed, and we're going to get back to you tomorrow because we've done an awful lot of work to try to help you get these chain of bill of sales. And hopefully by tomorrow we'll have everything that you need so that you'll be able to get this done.
Yes. My only
and that's
issue
what
is
we're
just
doing.
how I've been treated as a person. I mean, I've been hung up on, I have been talked down to by simply only women at the town office. Actually, specifically you and Nicole, if I may, have been very, very awful to me, hung up on me multiple times. I have 2 sons who need a home, and I paid for this home, and I have the legal documents that would be required in any other town to move it, and it's just very unconventional to have to do all this extra amount,
Okay.
you know, to move it is all.
3 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, moving on to the fourth order of business, reports from staff and committees. Town manager report.
All right, so last week, the Public Works Director and I met with the PAL board members to discuss the field and facility maintenance agreement that the town signed with them back in 2015. Went over a couple of different things and discussed the plans for the new field area and where, even though we have the deeds for the road where it was to go through to connect to the industrial
Yeah.
roads on each end, they're working on changing that because of a solar field that's actually going in.
Oh, okay.
And so they're on tracks right now to change where that road layout is going to be, which is going to make
Yeah.
it higher instead of lower. So that was good. Inland Fisheries and Wildlife also contacted us last week. A couple of years ago, there were change in classifications for local ponds and zones regarding ice fishing, and they're going to be working on a process so that our ponds that we have out near the PAL fields can be opened back up to ice fishing again for kids. So they're working on that process. They just want to make sure there wasn't any reason why on the municipal level that it had changed and we weren't aware of any. Also, for some projects that we're working on, Councilor Thibodeau has sent in photos for a scavenger hunt that we'll be getting ready to launch soon on our Facebook page, which is going to be kind of neat for pictures over town. We've started on revamping the tax acquired property ordinance, so that includes the new laws regarding persons 65 years and older, because ours doesn't have any of those pieces in it, so we'll get that stuff done. The new budget has been entered into the software system, department plan projects and purchases are being scheduled now that everything has passed. You have the discussion about the budget on here for a workshop item anyway, so we can ask more questions and stuff then. So that's it for me.
Okay. Any committee reports?
I don't think anybody's met. We can do the election report under the workshop item.
Yep. Okay. Moving on to fifth order of business. Consent agenda. Now, these are items that are considered routine or standard business and therefore will be enacted by one motion unless a council member requests that the item be removed and acted as a regular action item on the agenda. Right, item 20-97 ordered that the Fairfield Town Council hereby waives a reading and accepts the minutes for 2020-14 meeting held on July 8th, 2020. And item 20-98, which would be ordered that the Town Council hereby approves the Treasurer's Warrant number 79, General Fund, 6/30/2020, in the amount of $8,212.80, And warrant number 5, General Fund 78-2020, in the amount of $548,165.20.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? There being no discussion, all in favor? Unanimous vote. Moving to the 6th order of business, to take action on the following items of business. Item 20-99, ordered that the town council hereby accepts the resignation of town councilor Courtney Chandler, declares the seat vacant, and sets a deadline of August 6, 2020 for individuals interested in applying for appointment to submit a letter of interest and resume.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes.
I would just like to say that it's been a pleasure having Courtney as a counselor for our town. She's impressed me with her abilities, and I will truly miss her.
Yeah. We're going to do something for her, like we did with other councilors.
Sure, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Up to you guys.
We can put something together if you'd like, something we do.
Sure. Okay. All in favor? Carries 4 votes. All right, moving on to item 20-100. Ordered that the town council hereby vote to fix a date when taxes shall be due and payable in 4 installments when billed, and that an annual interest rate of 8% per annum be charged on taxes remaining unpaid after the 26th day of August 2020, or 30 days from the date tax bill mailed, whichever is later, for the first installment, after the 12th day of November 2020 for the second installment, and after the 3rd day of February 2021 for the 3rd installment, and after the 5th day of May 2021 for the 4th installment.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
I'm concerned too. It said there 8% in late taxes. I see in the sheet that was given to us, that's the state maximum percentage.
Yep.
Why do we have to set at the maximum level for our residents?
That's the way we've always had it.
I think we should change that in this doing time for these residents. 8% is a little higher than interest rates in banks.
It's a little low for a credit card.
This is the state's maximum. It shouldn't be Fairfield's maximum. I know I've been seeing other things going through the maximum rate, what the state says. And also too, we've been seeing a lot of tax liens in the last 2 years. It's going to probably get worse this year with everything going on. I think we should give our residents a little leeway on the percentages on any late taxes.
How many people, or how much money do we gather from people with late taxes, like in a given year? Do we ballpark figure?
I can tell you. Give me just one moment. Interest on taxes is actually a revenue line in your budget. So let me just look it up. Your number of tax liens really aren't different than they have been in any other years. The numbers are pretty much the same. It's pretty typical.
Is this the interest on taxes, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay. The interest on taxes received as of April 30th was $34,076.61.
Right.
At an 8%, right?
It was at 9% last year.
It was at 9%.
Yes.
So the
It's
max
gone
rate
down.
has actually dropped this year down to the 8.
Okay. So our 1920, it was budgeted at 38,000. 1819 was 45,711 and change. So when I look at this as received, and I know that we had done really well with the collections, we were like at 95% or 97% that had been collected as of last month. So we're continually going downhill. How much of a difference is there between 5% and 8% at 30? So we'll say we're budgeting 40,000 for the 2021 budget. So 5% of that is going to be
What, 1,200?
1,200?
Yeah.
So there's only like $1,200 difference if we go down to like 5%. My concern with that is we are already at a situation where there isn't enough in capital reserve to protect us in case something bad happens. So would we be cutting off the hand that feeds us by lowering it? When I look at the interest on the taxes coming in, I don't think that's a bad amount for one our size. And I'm thinking, because I haven't had time to think about this. So
It's not a revenue generator for us. $40,000 is a drop in our budget. It's not a revenue generator. Basically, it's a deterrent to being late on your taxes, and it's not much of a deterrent at that.
I mean, if you get it into a low level, and I'm sitting there and saying, well, let's see, if I pay this 8%, if I pay this off put it on my credit card, I'm going to be paying a higher interest rate than I would be, so I'm just going to let the taxes ride because it's cheaper than paying it on my credit card.
well, that's a thought.
It's cheaper to go get a home equity loan
Yeah.
and pay the bank.
Yeah.
Pay a bank
Yeah, you can go,
4 or 5%.
you can go get a home,
And pay
yeah,
us.
for
This
3, 4,
isn't a-
5%.
So what's important to remember is that the reason the interest on taxes is there is to be incentivize folks to pay their taxes. This is how you pay your bills, and if they don't pay us, we don't pay other people. And that's just the important thing for you to remember when you're figuring this out.
I respect the fact that it'd be nice to lower it. However, Peter, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference in the long run. And again, if that 8% is a lot less than a credit card, I don't know what the equity loan is going for. And I keep thinking of the fact that we were at like 97% of the taxes had been paid as of last month.
Our collection was much higher this year than it had been, and we think a lot of that had to do with the fact that could have been that there was either the stimulus payment that came out or people were home and remembered that their fourth quarter payment was due. But most of our payments, by the time the fourth quarter comes around, are from mortgage companies anyway.
Yeah.
So,
And if things get desperate for people, we have done tax abatements before in the past, and we will probably do them again in the future. So it's not like we don't recognize people that struggle and don't have the money.
Correct.
Because if they come to us, we can abate their taxes if they have dire circumstances. That's
I just see
part
it's
of the
gonna-
power of the council, is we
I'm
can
just
abate their
seeing-
taxes.
I'm just seeing it's going to get worse before it gets better. And we have people struggling.
And
in
that's
Fairfield
why
and
we have,
nationwide.
that's why we have that abatement process, is for people that are struggling and can't do it, they can come to us and we can abate their taxes.
Right. Plus, you also just talked about the tax ordinance for the 65-plus people. I mean, I'm interested in knowing more about that. I also know that the Maine state government has something, there's the homesteads help me out here, Michelle.
So the homestead exemption is going up this year.
Yeah.
So
To
you'll have a
25%.
higher homestead exemption on your property, so that inherently would decrease the number in which we put your, multiply by the mill rate.
That's why we got that
So-
$106 check
That will be coming through.
Right, and there's something else that's coming up because of COVID-19 and the pandemic. I thought I read about it in the
There's a possibility of a few
MMA.
things that they're working on, but nothing's final yet.
It's not final.
The 65 and older piece is a law that the state passed quite a few years ago that changes how you address seniors in the foreclosure process.
Okay.
It's never a municipality's intent to remove people from their homes and have them lose their homes and that sort of piece.
Right.
So the state of Maine created a law that gave guidance to folks over the age of 65. We have to follow the law now, it's just not incorporated into our ordinance.
Okay.
So,
Maybe this is an opportunity for us, Peter, to let our citizens know what's available for them in times of financial distress.
And also, too, any veterans, military personnel out there, too, they can get their, that 62, get a tax percentage off, too.
Yeah.
But if you have a certain percentage on your military disability before 62, you can get another rate off. If it's 100% before 62, or you turn 62, you get a percentage off.
Okay. So I'm good with going with the 8%. It's down 1% from last year. It's also an incentive for people, but people do need to realize that we do have programs available. The abatement process is one. I would like to make a motion. No, we already
You already
made a
have a
motion. I'm ready to move it. But
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? 3-1. Item 20-101. Ordered that the town council hereby vote to fix the interest rate to be paid by the town on abated taxes pursuant to Title 36 MRSA paragraph 506-A at 4%.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Being no discussion, all in favor? 4-0. Moving on to item 20-102. Ordered that the town council hereby vote to apply as much of the yearly overlay as may be necessary to fund property tax abatements and applicable interest granted during the July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021 fiscal year.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
How much, Michelle, we have up to, can we use on this? I know I saw something, 700,000, but I don't know how much.
So the overlay is actually created during the tax commitment process. That's the amount that's left over because the numbers don't ever actually come out exact. An overlay can never be more than 5% of the overall commitment. We won't know what that number is going to be until the commitment is done. I think you're thinking about the undesignated fund balance. That question should come to you at your next meeting, hopefully when we're ready to do the tax commitment, and then we'll know. We'll be able to give you mill rate scenarios, and you'll be able to decide how much of the undesignated fund you want to use. I think you have up to 400
We know how
that
much
you
the
can use.
mill rate would be too.
You should have a general idea by then, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not ready for that yet.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion? All in favor? 4-0. Carries. Item 20-103. Order that the town council hereby authorizes a tax collector to accept prepayment of taxes not yet committed and to pay no interest on such prepayments.
So moved.
second.
Discussion. There being none, all in favor? 4-0. Moving on to item 20-104. Ordered that the town council hereby elects Peter Lawrence to serve on MMA's Legislative Policy Committee.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? All opposed?
Stay.
All abstained. 301.
Thank you, Peter.
First meeting will be September 24th.
You didn't ask for discussion on that.
We discussed last week.
We discussed it last
It
time.
was funny how that paperwork showed up the day after the last council meeting when you mentioned it. It was interesting.
Yeah, no, I got
For
it.
the vote, yeah. I was like, oh, there it is.
Okay, as we're moving on to the seventh order of business, which is the council workshop and other business. So number one on that is discuss annual town budget meeting.
May I? I would
Yes.
like to commend Christine and her staff. Rick and I went down to vote, and prior to that, everything was all set up well in advance. And I really appreciate the organization, the demeanor, how the room was set up. And I just happened to be there at a time when the voter ahead of me put his papers in, and then the machines went off. And that was, I'd never seen that before, but everything was done in such a professional, quiet manner. And it really was a very relaxed environment, considering everything that we've had to go through to prepare for COVID-19 and voting. So, Christine, I would like to personally thank you for a job well done.
I want to echo that too. I came down after I got out of work, I had to wait for my daughter to get out of class. We actually came down and voted as a family for the first time. And there was no backlog because we did all the 6-foot distance and everything else. We knew it was going to be a little delay, and we didn't mind. So.
Yeah, I voted absentee, but coming through, I looked a couple of times and stuff, and things looked like they really, really were going very, considering the entire nightmare that whole thing was. And it had to be a total nightmare.
Yeah, we were
They
actually
did a heck of
surprised
a
by the
job.
numbers on Election Day, which ended up being, well, Christine has the details, some of the details for you. But because of the sheer volume of folks who had voted absentee and the number of people who historically have voted in these types of elections, we were surprised by the turnout on Election Day
Still a
itself.
number of
So
people,
but it did go very well. I had come through a couple of times, and while there were people here, may have been people in line, it wasn't what we we had envisioned, people wrapped around the building, and what if it rained, and trying to make adjustments for absolutely everything, and it went really well. So it was good.
You have the numbers, Christine, like how many people actually registered that day, or?
Oh, I'm going to give you numbers.
Okay.
When you're ready.
Oh, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm
Go
anxious.
for it.
All right, let me just switch screens for you. So I will be sending this report out to you. I just wasn't finished up with it in time for this meeting. So the current number of registered voters as of Election Day was 4,315. For the state referendum, a total number of voters casting ballots was 1,050. For the primary Democratic, 482 voters cast ballots. For the Republicans, 435 voters cast ballots. For the annual town budget 2020, for the budget referendum, the total number of voters casting ballots was 1,047, and for the school budget, the total number of voters casting ballots was 1,048. So you have to remember, sometimes an absentee comes back with a missing ballot and whatnot. At the polls, no one can refuse a ballot that they're eligible for, but occasionally an absentee will come back with a missing ballot. The turnout was 24% of our voter base. Absentee requests were 571, and the absentee ballots that were accepted and cast was 510. 61 did not come back by Election Day. We rejected 17 and sent out a new application and a voter reg card for people that were not registered to vote, or if it was a duplicate request. That can happen sometimes. The total new changes to voter registrations processed on Election Day was actually very low. It was surprisingly low. It was only 25. The changes to current voters for party affiliation was 6. So on that day, they were allowed to go from unenrolled into a party, but not party to party because of the deadline. And the changes to current voters, addresses or names, was 4. So it was definitely, a very low voter reg day. I don't expect that for November. Spoiled ballots, half of them were ranked choice voting confusion. There were 20. And then other miscellaneous challenges, misplaced marked and whatnot. Noteworthy for this election, the state-mandated social distancing and sanitization requirements were implemented and successfully administered. The polls saw steady attendance throughout the entire day. Absentee voting, the state's extension of the absentee deadlines and high absentee turnout resulted in substantial time processing. It's literally thousands of microtransactions. The early processing was facilitated on June 10th and the 13th. That was signed up for with the state and processed within their compliance. Election day actually saw a high volume of the absentee returns. They had to be coded, entered into the system, and processed right from the beginning of the day all the way down to 7:59 p.m. We had to receive absentee ballots, stop, and process. So that was an unexpected hiccup in our day and took time that we don't normally have to spend on election day. The staffing, I did want to just make a note that we had a lot of personnel limitations with conflicts of interest or folks that couldn't work due to the circumstances of the COVID-19 and health concerns. So we were successful in staffing the election, of course, but it was a very limited number, and we actually had some folks, new and returning folks, stepped up to the plate, rose to the challenges of this election, and they were all successful with their on-the-job training and with minimal correction or errors that we had to fix, which do happen on occasion. There is always the element of human error, but we typically catch everything right away and are able to correct it as we go. And I did just want to say that, as you pointed out, under the circumstances, I thought everybody did exceptionally well. It's always a job well done by everybody, but in this particular case, it was unusual circumstances that we all had to acclimate to, and everybody just rose to the occasion. And in addition to the election personnel, elections are a town team effort. Every department participates in coordination, and I just want to say well done by all, and the collaboration is always appreciated. There isn't a single department that doesn't pitch in with elections, and particularly our newest deputy, Sheila Patel, actually did a substantial amount of assistance with the absentee processing. It was because we were just overflowing. It was a lot of work. We pride ourselves on maintaining the integrity and compliance of elections, and it continues to be an honor to administrate elections for the town of Fairfield. Thank you.
I'm just glad the town of Fairfield didn't refuse any voters to come through the door. We didn't have, going by the state standards, wearing a mask. There were some towns that did refuse voters. They had to go vote in the parking lot.
We were advised by the state, so as an agent of the state, we have to follow the state's rule, and the state told us that we can recommend and request a mask, but under the ADA, we can't refuse a person, and so we never said that we would refuse anybody. We always follow the state's guidelines.
Some towns did.
Yeah,
A few
not
did.
Fairfield. And a couple of folks asked about it, and we let them know that they were welcome to proceed and welcome to our polls. So,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and a few folks asked if we had masks available, but we weren't sent enough from the state to share, so it was limited, and we didn't advertise that we were giving them away. If somebody asked for one, we did give them a mask, but it wasn't something we advertised because of our supply being so low.
Sure.
So currently, we suspect that the restrictions and pieces that were put in place for us for this election will be in place for November. Some of the things that have happened, the Secretary of State's office is offering a grant to fund up to, I think it's $1,200, $1,500 for official drop boxes. We have ordered one. We will be able to get that refunded. Public Works will install it outside the town office. So we'll, instead of the slot that's in the window that was only there while we were open, the drop box will be available 24/7 for people.
Excellent.
So that will make things a lot easier. And then in November, if there's no school or municipal election, we don't have to worry about the conflicts of interest that we had with some of our election staff for this past election. So hopefully the number of poll workers will, the pool will be larger. But we did have quite a few people who stepped up, some new folks. And if folks are interested in working in an election, it's not a volunteer process. We do pay you minimum wage. But it's, if you want to get involved in the community, sometimes it's a great thing to do if you know you want to come and spend some hours and take some time and help your community. We would implore people
Probably
to
see
come.
people that you haven't seen for quite a while.
Right. So, and with COVID, we do understand what happens is oftentimes just purely by nature, poll workers tend to be folks who are retired because they have the time to work all day, and we all know that that's a portion of our community that we're concerned about being out in public because of COVID-19. So if it stays the same in November, one would suspect that we would have the same exact issues. So if folks want to volunteer, we certainly would. Definitely, all they got to do is fill out an application and let us know, so, which is good.
Very good. Anything else? Moving to number 2. Discuss comprehensive plan, natural resources. And we've got a letter here as per Nicole Martin.
And you have a statement in your packet too from the fire chief where they related to who was in charge of implementation of the various different strategies.
Okay.
You didn't get a memo from me because I figured I could tell you while we were sitting here.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting to go back and reread that portion of it. And in Part 5, Section 1, it brought up some concerns that I have in regards to the natural resources that we have in our town. And Mill Island, the banking near the footbridge, if we could use DOT to come in and help us to maintain that so that sight line is there, that is a natural resource as well of historical significance. Also, it was mentioned in 5, Section 2, the local land trust. Do we even have a local land trust?
I don't believe that we do.
No.
Because
And
it's
I
in
was
there.
actually curious as to where that came from when the comprehensive plan was done, where that...
That was
and
a
maybe it was
carryover from the
something
old
that
one.
folks were thinking about pursuing, but we don't have anything with that. It doesn't mean we can't keep it in there, and something you could always consider becoming involved in if the situation arose.
Right. The local land trust is really an agricultural thing to keep a farm a farm. And where we do have farms in our area, but that's never really been a concern
No.
with local farmers. And the last item was Part 5, Section 3. And this is really interesting because it's about learning about your resources and then being educated about it and helping the landowners. And if there were any landowners that, especially bordering the river, and you wanted to know more about how you can work to maintain the natural resources along the river, we could help you, and we have resources available. So, and it's there, and if you go up and down the river from the dam to the Hinckley Bridge, it's beautiful, and it's well-maintained, and there are resources out there if you would like to continue to maintain, or if you would like to start an initiative. So it's out there. So, but I think it's an untapped area when you think of natural resources, because the Kennebec River, that section between the dam and the Hinckley Bridge, is really good for its bass fishing, and not too many people know that. More people may know it now. But
Well, we had talked for years of possibly, setting up, because of this section right here, is setting up a bass tournament and annual bass tournament, stuff like that, and it kind of all I think has fallen by the wayside, but I still think it's a strong possibility that
Yeah,
we
we-
could do that from probably about here up to Hinckley
Yeah.
and do a bass tournament.
We've talked about it on the Economic and
Yes, we did.
Community Development
That's what-
Council, and I think
A lot
it's
of years.
probably on the back burner, and it keeps resurfacing,
Yeah.
so it's something that we can do. Actually, that would be a good thing to do during COVID-19, because you can keep your social distancing going
Yes.
on.
Yep,
So I'll bring it up at the meeting,
good idea.
and we'll see what we can do, so.
So some of the things that we do, so we've promoted the canoe portage too, that's in Shawmut, where they had taken the old mill out and put that canoe portage in there.
Right.
That's a great resource for people to go in below the Shawmut Dam so
Yeah.
that they can come down here to the
Yep.
boat landing. We've actually worked recently with DEP and Clean Waters. There actually has been some invasive species of plants that are not native to this region that nestled their way into the banks of the Kennebec up near the Hinckley boat landing. So now there's a whole bunch of new, there's going to be a new billboard that's going up that gives out information to boaters about checking their boats. And this wasn't milfoil either. I can't remember what it was. But they actually
interesting.
came in last year. They had divers come in, and they had to extract all of this
Oh, wow.
vegetation. And they met with us because we gave them a place to take it and bury it and that kind of stuff. So we do work on that to try to make sure boaters are aware, because
Yeah.
that boat landing is used quite a bit, and not just by Fairfield residents. So we like to make sure we make sure folks
Yeah.
from out of town know as well.
The railroad tracks at the Hinckley boat landing, it's really bad. So maybe it's worth a call to Pan Am. I know but you could blow a tire up there. It's pretty, if you haven't been there in a while, it's
Yeah,
not
I
a
haven't
very
been. Is that right?
comfortable
So
ride.
we've been working with, there's a group of folks that are working with KVCC. There's been talk of potentially a boathouse going in.
Really?
Up near there in Hinckley, where folks that would be affiliated with the school, and it has a lot to do, the folks from Western Mountains Group, I can't remember the organization anyway, but they're from northern part of Somerset County, mid-Somerset County, that have been working on that. We were supposed to this year have boat races on the Kennebec here in town. The folks that do it above the Wyman Dam were going to be
Right.
coming down here. That event, I believe, was completely canceled and didn't happen. And promoting our river is something we should definitely do more of. We don't
Right.
do it enough, because it is a wonderful asset for us. One of the other pieces that was in here was best management practices for public works employees. Basically, that's erosion control devices, making sure that when we're doing road projects, you don't have sediment that are running off into ditches, which then goes to streams and clogs the rivers. So that's something that we always do. And our contractors are required to do that as well. So BMPs is something that's always in place for when we do these jobs. And then you'll see that you got information this evening from the code enforcement officer about all the pieces that are in play with the planning board, and how that we have the section along the river, at least 250 feet of the high water mark of the Kennebec River and the Martin Stream, have received the strictest shoreline zoning designation, which is resource protection.
Yep.
So that piece is what interferes with us with the clearing and keeping clear the sections of Mill Island Park, which is why that's going to, after we're done with this video piece on the park that the Economic Community Development Committee is doing, my plan is to actually speak with DEP and have them come in and let us know what it is that we can do, so to help keep down the vegetation, not impact the river, but be able to enhance our views from our park locations. So,
That would be good.
So we want to modify our natural resources.
right.
Okay.
Yes.
So
We
that
don't
you can
want-
see it.
Right.
So that we've done brush cutting before. You can only do brush cutting in the wintertime,
Yeah.
when it comes to being next to the river, and then it grows up very quickly. And oftentimes when there's snow on the ground, what happens is once the snow melts, you realize that there are these 3 and 4 inch spikes sticking up out of the ground where all the vegetation was, which isn't really safe, actually, if you're talking about the borders of your park. We need to come up with a better solution to keep the vegetation down without using chemicals and keeping the root structure so you don't have erosion control issues, and those pieces, and hopefully they can help us come up with that solution. But yeah,
Okay.
all in all, this one's a good group.
So for the next council, we'll go on to the next section.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. The third item in the seventh order of business is discuss the 142 Oakland Road.
I don't have anything in here for that. So, just today, we were able to locate the deeds for the Center Road Fire Station. It was one of the pieces that we've been doing. We believe with the, we're hoping with the property descriptions, the attorney's hoping with the property descriptions, you actually won't have to pay for a survey. They think they're gonna have enough information so to get the easement put in place, which will be substantially less money. And it will save us that money. But it was just today that I found the deeds this morning in an old file hidden in the vault. There was evidently a property line dispute on the Center Road Fire Station back in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I remember that.
Back when this survey was done, actually.
I remember
And
that.
3 property owners and the town did quitclaim deeds so that the boundary markers, the boundaries were solid and filed at the Registry of Deeds. Well, one of the property owners, after the deeds were drawn up, refused to actually sign the deeds, so they were never filed. Property changed hands. Didn't come up in the first title search, but it came up in the second title search. So the person who purchased the property afterwards in 2007 did do a deed to the town, and the town did a deed to them. So that piece is done. But I can't find where it was ever filed at the Somerset County Registry of Deeds, and I've even checked the Kennebec County Registry of Deeds because sometimes there was a title company involved and they'll make a mistake. But either way, all of that information was sent off in an email this afternoon with scans of the new deeds. So hopefully we'll have an answer really soon, and that we'll be able to avoid a new survey. They'll just be able to do with the current property descriptions and the site plan the piece that we need to give us a buffer for an easement to that holding tank, and then get all the rest of the paperwork drawn up, and it should be able to be
Get
done.
everything done.
Yep.
What's your projection? Next meeting or a couple
I would like to
meetings?
say next meeting, but I can't know that I can't guarantee that. So
Yep.
Bill Lee, our attorney, is dealing with the
Right.
real estate division of his office. So remember, Bill doesn't specialize in real estate law. It's municipal pieces. So, or at least I don't think he does, but it's that department that's handling it. So Bill's kind of our go-between.
Okay.
But I think this piece was the last piece. What was concerning is that we did not have on file anywhere what the books and pages were to these deeds. We couldn't find them until I actually physically found the deeds themselves in this folder with their books and pages on them. So we've got them. We're going to get it on record now, and hopefully this will move things much faster.
Super.
Good.
Be happy to get it off of our agenda.
Yes.
Okay. I'll discuss any other council business. Stephanie?
Michelle, can you give us an update on the Green Road? Because I noticed in today's paper, there was, in the police log, there was something about the Green Road, and I went right thinking, uh-oh. How's that going with it closed? Are people still invading it, or?
I haven't heard of any other additional issues since we have closed it and gated it off. I have spoken to a few residents who wanted to be able to use that facility, and once we explained to them, most of them were fine and understood and were willing, had places where they could store their material till fall. It is possible to take brush and debris to Waste Management's landfill. However, you do need to go across the scales and pay for it up there. We have told people that, they could reach out to other locations and see if there were other ways that they could get rid of it. At the time, the issue was, is when burn permits had been suspended as well, so people couldn't even burn it. That sense has changed, so people could always look into getting a burn permit to take care of any brush that they have. We have looked into various different levels of security, and components have been ordered. We still have not had a connection with DEP yet. We've been waiting on them. I know the Public Works Director has been talking with them, but the date has not been set for them to physically come here. So that's really what we're waiting on next. because they may tell us that we have to excavate X amount of soil in that area, so we're at a standstill as to what we can do until they come.
Okay. And as you know, I'm concerned about the welfare of the police department with so many calls happening. And, I mean, they're going down the road, up the road, usually a couple times a day. And what I'm reading in the paper, I'm concerned that maybe our own police force needs to have some mental health as well, positive mental health, dealing with these situations. So I know that you and the chief are on it, so that's a good thing.
Michael?
Just a quick question as to where we might be with the grants and/or loans for the fire training facility. Haven't heard about that lately.
So we currently have an application in to Somerset County for their TIF piece. We haven't heard back from them as to when they're going to review that application yet. The grant with the state was tied to financing in the legislature, so we were in the second round of that grant for the state. We are waiting on paperwork from them because the council has to actually physically accept this money, and the fire chief has been in touch with them, but because of the way the election was and COVID, it's all gotten on the back burner. But we've been awarded that grant for that $425,000 it was to go towards that. So between that and if we receive funds from the TIF district for the county's TIF funds, because the facility would be used by firefighters in the unorganized territories as an ability for them to come here and train, which is closer. And then it was written in, this project is written into the natural gas TIF. So TIF funds can be used for the remaining pieces of that. So between the grant, hopefully funds from the county, and the TIF funds, we should have all the funds we need to do construction. But the timing of everything is, we're just waiting for it to all fall into play.
Excellent.
So, and I understand too, like with the county with COVID, same exact issues. You know, these are not things that are top priorities for people, and they are taking back burners, and folks are meeting when they can, because we all know meetings are not as convenient as they used to be. So, so they had some questions, and we got them their answers, and we're just waiting. So we'll see.
Okay.
All right, thank you for the update.
Peter?
Yes, any more plans or updates on the fire station in Fairfield Center, if they only open it up and use it for another facility, or is that going to still be used as a storage facility?
Still currently just used as a storage facility. It's actively used, so it's not like it's a storage facility for boxes and that kind of stuff. It's equipment that is seasonal. So like the brush truck stays up there in the wintertime and is down here in the summer and that sort of stuff. There's no conversation about expanding to there as for like offices or staffing it or anything like that. Okay. Not at this time.
All right. Any more updates on the Tom Farm Road project? Because I know that's...
Yes, so that survey is done. Dirigo has finished that survey, and I had thought that we would have received your binders already for that report, but it may be actually that they're sitting in their lobby at their office, and I actually need to go get them. But that is done. It's an expensive project, but we haven't had time to fully grasp exactly what it could be, and the most expensive part with that project is going to be water and sewer to that location, because currently public water and sewer don't go that far. But water and sewer at that location for a subdivision serve two different purposes, especially if it was public, was simply because of the fact that 201 is prime for economic development, and having water and sewer would make all of those vacant properties that are up there much more appealing to folks. You could certainly do a subdivision and do private wells and septics, but that makes your acreage for any house buildable lot to be much larger than if you had public water and sewer. And there's a couple of different options. Goodwill Hinckley actually has their own water tower and their own water source, so you could tie into that instead of actually the Kennebec Water District. So there's quite a few things. There's a lot of really good information in that report. And even if it ends up that you don't do anything, we've at least looked into it, and it's always there. And being prepared for when grants arrive, it's much better to have those documents than to go forward. But it'll be interesting conversation, but you'll get those copies soon.
All right, and Robert Dale, any more updates on him?
I know that he's still currently working on his most recent section. I haven't gotten a recent update from the code enforcement officer.
Okay.
I visited him, I've talked to him, I've been to the location, and I know he was working on some pieces. But that's
Okay, I
about
don't know if other councils drove by that property.
Yeah, I went by there
There's a
today.
green van out there. The door's wide open.
Yep.
I think that's his van.
And it's a table out there, just like with an umbrella, just like a person selling stuff inside the road. I've been out there a couple times. That van was, one side was open, another side was open,
Yep.
and next day, van's gone. But stuff in that place where that van is. So I haven't seen much movement.
I believe that's actually Robert's van.
Okay.
Yep.
But that van was loaded with stuff and wide open. Looked like wide open for people to come and pick and sell.
Oh, I doubt that.
Also, to the last thing, I know this wasn't reported, but political signs on personal property, especially on the North Rock Road. We had our state rep property damaged.
Yeah, that was in the paper.
That was actually on town property. There was no report on any skid
wow.
marks. Someone was staying in her house because she was on vacation.
Right.
And I read the Facebook, and people was hit. There's no skid marks. People checking the property, filling that, showing man over some political signs. I know people do not like the people are running, but it is common courtesy. Do not go on residents' property and destroy their signs. Please, that is a offense if caught.
Did you say that was on town property?
So Nicky's, where that fire hydrant is, 21 feet, it's town property.
I didn't know the town owned that.
From the center line.
It's from the road back.
Well, that's a state road, first of all,
Yeah.
and that's just a right of way. I don't know if they actually
Yeah.
own it.
Okay, because
Yeah.
they damaged the trip of the lawn pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yes, Christine.
I would just add that I already have on the public notices section of the website all of the signage rules and requirements for
Okay.
both political, commercials prohibited unless it's on private property with permission. But everything's posted if anybody
Okay.
wants access to
I
that.
just thought, well, Paul, our state rep was on vacation, and someone took it upon themselves to destroy some signs on that property.
State property, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it for me.
That's it? Okay. The only thing I have is to remind people, if anybody is watching, that we have a opening on the town council. And if we have interested people to come down to the town hall and fill out the paperwork so we can take a look at it and fill that position. What's her,
Her
up
term
this
was
year?
actually up this year.
Her term is up this year, so.
And you
it'll be-
only appoint until the end of the year
term,
anyway.
right.
Not to the end of the term, you only appoint till your next organizational meeting. So this appointment will be through the end of December.
Yeah.
So this would be a perfect opportunity if you were thinking about running in November anyway, to put in for this appointment and give you a
Right.
chance to kind of get your feet wet, that kind of stuff, and know before the election gets here, so.
Yep. So just reminding people. That's all I've got. So the next regular meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, August 12th, 2020, to be held as a hybrid meeting via Zoom in the council chambers at 6:30 p.m. Eighth order of business would be executive session. There is none.
We got to sign recess.
Yes, I was just going to ask Christine if we need to recess to sign anything.
We do have documents to sign this evening.
Okay, well then I will Accept the motion to go into recess.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? We're in recess.